Britain added to list of countries at high risk from coronavirus. Activist Joshua Wong arrested for illegal assembly. And more nationwide protests across America over alleged police brutality against minorities.
Good evening and welcome. The Hong Kong government will add the UK to its list of areas at high risk from the coronavirus starting next Thursday. That's alongside 10 other countries already on the list.
As Jackie Lin reports, the government explained the resurgence of infections in the UK influenced its decision.
The new policy means all incoming travelers from the UK, including Hong Kong ID holders, need to test negative 72 hours before boarding their flights. They also need to submit documents proving they have booked a hotel room for their 2-week quarantine. Upon arrival in Hong Kong, they will need to undergo another round of tests to ensure they have a clean bill of health. HKU's Gabriel Leung believes it's advisable to have other European countries included on the list. But another medical expert had a different view.
To Hong Kong, the threat from bringing in virus from the UK is actually higher than other European countries. So because of the frequent travels between Hong Kong and the UK, I think at the moment we just have to be cautious.
But even before the announcement, there was an exodus of Hong Kong students studying in the UK who made an early exit. Like Mike here, who returned to Hong Kong just this morning after one of his schoolmates came down with COVID.
I feel lucky because the price for testing the virus is quite expensive for us. And you need to go to the hospital, and it's quite far away from us.
His classmate Herman was also glad to be back.
They do not really wear the masks all the time, even in school or like after school. So I'm quite scared of that.
But the new mandates have also derailed some students' plan to return home.
Since the quarantine time is 2 weeks and we only have 3 weeks for the Christmas holiday, it takes up about half of the holidays, so it kind of ruined my plans.
But Zion's long holiday away from home won't be dull, as he needs to prepare for his upcoming A-level exams. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
After losing his election appeal yesterday, democracy activist Joshua Wong was arrested today in connection with an anti-government protest last October. Wong says he was arrested while reporting to the Central Police Station at around 1 p.m. Police arrested him for attending a rally in Causeway Bay against the anti-mask ban on October 5th. Veteran activist Koo Si-yu was also arrested. They're charged with taking part in an unauthorized assembly. Wong is also charged for violating the anti-mask law. They'll be in court next Wednesday.
It's the third cases that I need to face already since last June I left prison. And it's time to urge the government stop the political prosecution. Chilling effect is not the way out, and it will not cause us to surrender.
The Hong Kong Journalists Association may launch a legal challenge against a police move to classify who is and who is not a media representative.
Journalists say attempting to redefine who is or isn't a reporter is a violation of press freedom in Hong Kong. Dong Yao-ne has details.
Earlier this week, the police announced they would be updating their definition of media representatives, which means the force will no longer recognize journalists accredited by the Hong Kong Journalists Association and the Hong Kong Press Photographers Association. This morning, media groups, including the HKJA, expressed their concerns.
The latest amendment of the Police General Orders, I think, is yet another piece of evidence that they are treating, say, reporters as enemies.
Under the amendment, the police will now only acknowledge 2 major groups of journalists. This includes reporters from outlets registered with the Information Services Department's online portal, or foreign media that is internationally recognized and reputable. Only these trusted media would be allowed to enter cordoned-off areas to report. The police claimed the change will help officers identify media representatives and facilitate cooperation.
The provisions in the general order that may be further used to, say, restrict the right of reporting by citing, say, operational efficiency, which is very subjective.
The HKJA is now consulting lawyers to see if there are sufficient grounds to submit a judicial review against the change.
Some media groups support the revision, such as the Hong Kong Federation of Journalists. Man Chak-fei, vice chairman of the group, says it's essential to protect press freedom. But it's also important to ensure the professionalism of journalists, he added. Dong Yao-Nie, TVB News.
Overseas now, South Korea's military says North Korean troops shot dead a South Korean fisheries official who went missing on Monday. Officials say it appears the man was trying to defect to the north when he was reported missing from a fisheries boat near a disputed border called the Northern Limit Line. The military believes the man was questioned at sea before he was executed on an order from superior authority. The body was then burned in an apparent effort to prevent a coronavirus outbreak. The U.S. military commander in South Korea said earlier that North Korean troops had been given shoot-to-kill orders to prevent the coronavirus from entering the country. The orders may be in an attempt to prevent an outbreak from disrupting a major military parade planned for next month.
Over in the U.S., anger, frustration, and sadness over the decision not to charge police officers for the death of a Black emergency medical worker has poured onto America's streets.
2 police officers were injured in gunfire in Breonna Taylor's hometown as outrage boiled over against a criminal justice system many say is stacked against Black people.
In the matter of
hours after a Kentucky grand jury brought no charges against Louisville police for Breonna Taylor's death, protesters took to the streets. 2 officers are in hospital with non-life-threatening injuries after they were shot during the demonstrations. The suspect is in custody.
And that is very serious. It's a very dangerous condition. I think that the safety of our officers and the community we serve is of utmost importance.
Demonstrators have been calling for charges since Taylor was shot multiple times by white officers who entered her home during a narcotics investigation in March. The search warrant was connected to a suspect who did not live there, and no drugs were found inside.
Mob justice is not justice.
State Attorney General Daniel Cameron said an investigation showed the officers acted in self-defense after Taylor's boyfriend fired at them. A grand jury returned 3 charges of wanton endangerment against one of the officers over shooting into a home next to Taylor's with people inside. Kentucky's governor says the public needs more information about the evidence that convinced the grand jury not to indict the officers.
When we have a vacuum of information, it makes it so much harder.
The Democratic presidential nominee, who has been calling for police reform, asked demonstrators not to resort to violence.
My heart goes out to Breonna Taylor's mom. The last thing she needs is to see violence in the streets. So protest peacefully, no violence.
Along with George Floyd, a Black man killed by police in Minneapolis in May, Taylor's name has become a rallying cry during nationwide protests calling for attention to entrenched racism and demands for police reform.
The casket of the late U.S. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg has been moved to the top of the Supreme Court's marble steps so the public can pay respects. Mourners were already waiting in line hours before. A brief private ceremony honoring the champion of women's rights and gender equality began the mourning period on Wednesday. Because of the pandemic, the casket was moved outside. Some drove from several states away to pay their respects.
Was the reason that I am an attorney today. I mean, if she hadn't done what she did for gender equality, I don't believe that I would be an attorney.
My senator announced like an hour after she died that he intended to fill her seat. That seems absurd and ridiculous. And since it took 42 days to confirm Ruth Bader Ginsburg, it seems also, I don't really have words. It's offensive. I'm not going to be voting for Mitch McConnell. That's for sure.
Still to come on tonight's news. Troubled Ocean Park unveils new experiences to lure visitors. 3 given prison sentences of up to 4 years over violent protests in Sha Tin Mall last year.
Welcome back. Ocean Park is rolling out a new series of outdoor experiences next month, replacing their usual extravagant Halloween program in a bid to stay afloat.
It comes as the government relaxes social distancing measures, allowing theme parks to reopen after being shut for 2 months. Pinky Wong has more.
The sound of a gong, which some describe as an ocean of sound that can wash away tension and stress. One of the newest experiences the theme park is offering is meditation at the park's aquarium. Ocean Park has been suffering financially because of the economic fallout from the pandemic. But it earlier received a lifeline this year in the form of the government's $5.4 billion bailout.
Given the limited resources we have today, we decided to take the initiative, and even before the rethink, launch new initiatives, launch new ideas like Green Staycation. The purpose is, I think, twofold. It's to give Hong Kong people a new experience at Ocean Park. Traditionally, people associate Ocean Park with pandas and roller coaster, not sup yoga, not glamping.
Lau says the new initiatives cost less than the usual Halloween festivities the park offered in the past. Some visitors are happy about the new activities to come, which will include yoga and hiking.
I read about that. It's awesome. It's a great idea. I grew up in Hong Kong, and Ocean Park is. I myself have been here 20 odd times, and one of the greatest value of Ocean Park is the landscape. Right, it's beautiful. There's a lot of green that is previously not accessible, by the guests. So I think this idea of opening up, letting the guests to enjoy the place even more is a great idea.
Those who are planning to join the hiking trail are reminded to look up, as you'll be able to see the cable cars passing by over your head. Pinky Wong, TVB News.
The tourism board will soon resume a campaign to encourage more domestic tourism now that social distancing is being relaxed.
Here's Kana Chu on the tourism sector's latest bid to stay alive amid the pandemic.
The coronavirus pandemic has virtually frozen the tourism sector, which means it's time for locals to rediscover the city's hidden gems by being a tourist in the place they call home. Amid a flattened coronavirus infection curve, the Hong Kong Tourism Board revealed plans to relaunch a campaign boosting domestic tourism. Called Holiday at Home, organizers earlier slammed the brakes on the program due to the city's third COVID-19 outbreak. Poised to resume when existing group gathering limits are raised to 20 people or more, it is expected to offer free-of-charge local tours to those spending at least $800 to $1,000 at restaurants or retailers. A selection of 50 excursions covers a meal and round trip by coach for around 10,000 participants who choose to sign up for them. Lasting roughly 4 hours, they also include an insider's guide around the city's lesser-known venues, such as uninhabited islands and secret hideouts. And that's probably where the success of the campaign lies. According to Walk in Hong Kong founder Paul Chan, attractive and carefully planned itineraries are key to stimulating indirect spending during the trips. As the skies remain mostly closed for international travel, authorities expect Macau and the Greater Bay Area's 9 cities to be the soonest to resume travel arrangements with Hong Kong. To facilitate that, an online platform will later be set up to announce various promotional activities. Kana Chu, TVB News.
3 men have been given up to 4 years in prison for clashing with police at a mall in Sha Tin in July last year. The court heard that during a protest in New Town Plaza Mall on July 14th, the defendants beat and attacked 2 police officers with umbrellas. One of the officers has suffered serious injury in his left eye and nose and hasn't resumed his normal job until now. The 3, aged 24, 51, and 17, pled guilty to the charges, including rioting and causing bodily harm with intent. 2 of them face 4 years imprisonment, and the 17-year-old student was sentenced to 3 years and 4 months in prison. The judge said the student's age and identity shouldn't exempt him from imprisonment.
Number 3 alarm fire broke out at a residential estate in Sha Tin this afternoon, leaving a man dead. At least 4 others were sent to hospital. The fire happened in a flat in Wing Shui House at Lek Yun Estate. A woman was stranded on a ledge before being rescued by firefighters. The blaze reportedly broke out at around 4 o'clock and was upgraded to a number 3 alarm after 20 minutes. Firefighters used 2 jets and mobilized 2 breathing apparatus teams to put out the blaze. The woman was sent to hospital for treatment.
That's the news. Thanks for watching.
Good night.